offering school curriculum to partner churches, schools and private Christian schools, teacher training, printing and distributing Bible study and Sunday school lessons and materials, and facilitating skills training and marketing of products made by widows and vulnerable women. So maybe you're wondering about the name Rafiki. It is a Swahili word that means friend. Organization are in Tanzania, where our founders, husband and wife, named the Jensens, were missionaries back in the 1960s. Rafiki was founded in 1987 and has sent over 200 missionaries to Africa. Rafiki is funded primarily by individuals, families, and churches. In each country, Rafiki has one campus or village which has homes for children, schools for resident and community children, a teacher's college, and housing for missionaries. In Zambia, the Rafiki village began operations in 2006. And Rafiki's church partners in Zambia are Reformed Baptist churches, the CCAP, and the Reformed Church of Zambia. So Dr. Rose Allinder and I will be discussing how Rafiki implemented a classical Christian education program in our schools and a teacher training college. So we're going to begin with a video of that's by our current director of Rafiki, Miss Karen Elliott.
In Rafiki, we landed on classical Christian education at the very beginning because we believed that was the best education for a human being. It was the education of the church, and really classical education is the best thing to wed with a biblical worldview education. Our goal is to help transform 1,000 church schools with our Rafiki classical Christian education system.
Classical Christian education is the solution to the problem in the world. And it's the solution in African countries and other countries that are fighting corruption.
Okay, even though you thought it wasn't great, I'm sure you got the idea from that. Okay, now,
I think classical Christian education is the solution to the problem in the world. And it's the solution in African countries and other countries.
The very first part right now we heard saying, she was explaining that we have classical Christian education in our schools because we believe that it's the best education for a human being. Now, we are here to talk about classical education in a Zambian context. In many ways, most basically, the answer or the response to that would be the same if we were looking at classical education in a Canadian context, a Nigerian context, or Australian context. The fact is that a human being is a human being is a human being wherever. Now, if someone were to ask me why classical education is the best for a human being, the shortest and most direct answer I would give them is it addresses what Augustine said is our biggest need. St. Augustine has said there is a God-shaped vacuum in every man, woman, boy, and girl that only Christ can fill. And so classical education addresses that in various ways. One of the ways is that, well, it's just the definition. This is my favorite definition of classical education. It is the leading of others, the guiding, the pointing, the encouraging, the teaching of others. Out of the darkness of ignorance and unbelief, that's how we're born, and leading them into the light of truth and faith. Now, how do we do that? Well, we work on wisdom and virtue, all right? Of course, the source of all wisdom is the Bible. We talk a lot about Proverbs in our school. We look at the great books. One of them being, of course, we read it in our school in grade 3, Aesop's Fables, the beginning of now direct wisdom. Now, for virtues in our school, we do have the definitions. We teach them during the week, the definitions, but we also use the great books to learn about virtues. We're better to learn about courage, about loyalty, than the stories in the Odyssey. To learn about the vices of pride, of anger, than reading about Achilles. So by reading these great books, we're learning more and more about wisdom and about virtue. Now, in our school, we do, learn about the liberal arts. We do talk and we follow the trivium. And I'll talk more about that. What does the trivium look like in a Zambian school? But before I do that, I want to, some of the criticisms. I mean, not everyone is a big proponent of classical education. Maybe you've heard of this before. One of the criticisms that sometimes comes up is, classical education, it's just more of that stuff they're importing from the West. I don't know if you've ever heard that. I know you don't believe it at ACU. Dr. Merkel doesn't believe it. We at Rafiki do not believe it. But be assured, it's not just here. Many, many people across the continent are embracing classical education with a good rationale. Let me show you a little blur from a seminar that happened last weekend. I hope you can see that. Mr. Daniel Olashola, the gentleman on the left, started a classical school in Jos, Nigeria, called Reformation School, Reformation Wall. And he's begun the Great Books Institute. And next to him is a fellow or an associate with the Great Books Institution. And I'm going to share 3 quotes from these 2 gentlemen, and my friends over here are going to help, okay? Here's the first quote from Mr. Olashola. Okay?
Teaching should not be perceived as a mere refuge, a last recourse for career seekers when their cherished aspirations fail to materialize. It embodies a noble vocation, a sacred calling that beckons the most brilliant minds in their quest for wisdom's cherished treasures.
Wouldn't you have loved to have teachers like that? Maybe you did. I did not. But I hope that in our current school here in Rafiki, that we do have teachers who are that passionate. And we do. I'm happy to tell you that. Another place.
At Great Books Institute, we are championing a new era where the pursuit of knowledge is entrusted to passionate souls, eager to ignite young minds with the true good and the beautiful.
Like Dr. Merkel said, they are classic because they embody these things that speak to the soul across time and across different places. Now, the last set of quotes is from the other gentleman, addressing some of the criticisms. So listen to what the Nigerian author has said.
Classical education is not Western. The sun that shines over Nairobi is the same as the sun that shines over Abuja, London, or Washington. The laws of physics, motion, and gravity hold true in New York, Paris, and Lagos. The anatomy of the human body in Africa is the same with the anatomy of the human body in Seoul or Toronto. If I am learning about the solar system, planets, the laws of physics, anatomy, logic, mathematics, I am not learning Western education. I am learning education which applies to the general world and humanity as a whole.
So we believe in Rafiki, in classical education, that there's much value in going back to time-tested methods and time-tested materials. And the way we express that in Rafiki is one of our symbols. This is one of our symbols for Rafiki. This is the Sankofa bird. It is a symbol from Ghana, one of their Ndinkra symbols, which always have different meanings. And this is a symbol of the importance of learning from the past. This is a bird turning around to catch its lost egg. You can see she is looking. Where is this? This is a sign turn. It says that it is never too late to turn around and to start on a new path once one has recognized one's mistakes. And let's be honest, there have been a lot of mistakes in education. And so it's time to go back to what has been time-tested and proven across time and across different places. So this is the way we encapsulate what is classical education. We say that it is the formation of the heart, the soul, and the mind of our students. We say it is helping the students to order their lives properly, teaching them to love what God loves, and to hate what is despicable, to love what is truth, to hate lies and deceit, to love goodness, to hate pride and arrogance, to love beauty, and to hate what is trashy and unkempt. We would say that we are wanting to equip the students with the tools for their own learning for themselves. We want to raise up men and women of virtue, this ideal of individual excellence and of achievement. And the bottom line, to live well. Well, how do we do this? Well, let me take you through how we do it in a Zambian context, beginning with our school at the trivia. I'll just talk through it, okay? We begin with what Dorothy Sayers calls pre-poly. These are our early childhood classes. We call them early childhood 1, 2, 3, and I'll be saying EC1. Those are the classes for 3-year-olds. EC2, 4-year-olds. EC3, kindergarten. And here we work a lot on language development and motor development. There's a lot of pre-reading, a lot of pre-math skills, and when we get to kinder, definitely reading. Reading maths, reading and maths in cursive writing. And across it all, music, art, and Bible study. So here's one of our classes. This is a class of EC2. There are 10 children, and we have 4 of these classrooms. So there are only 10 children, and they do the normal things. They're learning, months and days and counting and letters. This is what, I hope you can see this. This is an EC1. This is the 3-year-old class this week. You see their topic. The shape they're practicing is square. They're learning to rub count, and they're recognizing numeral 5. And this week, they're learning letter K. Now notice that. It says K. K is for king. Jesus is king. This is an example of a covenant word. This is what we do when we introduce letters. We help the children associate it with a particular doctrinal truth at their level. So K is for king, Jesus is our king. A is for Adam. God made Adam the first man. So at this very tender age, they're getting the seeds of the doctrinal truths that we teach in our Reformed Bible study. Now going on to EC3, they're learning cursive writing. They're learning basic math understandings, the concepts of addition and subtraction, and they're learning to read. And we have a very intentional phonics program. That's how we teach reading, beginning in kinder, in grade 1, and grade 2. And this is going to have sound. This is going to have sound, okay? Hopefully they'll hear it. And this is, last week, children learning their sounds and how to blend them into words. So let's see if we can hear this. I'm going to go back. Ready? Because you have to hear the little children. The teacher is teaching, and the children are saying the sounds and blending and blending and blending. Here. Okay, so hopefully you got the idea. I'm going to go ahead to the grammar stage, okay? In the grammar school, children love to memorize. It's very easy for them. They do a lot of chanting and singing. They learn science and math through songs. And last week, grade 3 was singing a song about states of matter. We do a lot of it in our language arts, particularly in grammar. So we're going to try to hear the children singing their preposition song. Verbs, prepositions, through singing. This is part of language arts. It's taught from a classical curriculum, which Rafiki made. They learn grammar, they learn literature. I'll talk about that separately. They learn classical writing, vocabulary, and spelling. We begin classical writing. Oh, this is the picture of cursive writing, grade 1. Beautiful handwriting. Beginning in grade 3, we do classical writing. You can see the book. It's writing and rhetoric, the student's text. They read one of Aesop's fables, and then they use that to perhaps do remediation or dictation, narration, summary, rewriting, learning the main moral of the story, and emphasizing it like that. Now, our curriculum, classical curriculum in language arts, also in mathematics and science, we use that and we blend it in with other things, but all of our curricula is written with a biblical worldview statement because we want the teachers to be able to explain it to the children to how it connects with the bigger picture of God, our creation, mankind. And here's an example. This is grade 6 science. This is the teacher guide. They're beginning the unit or the lesson on protecting your immune system. You see the student objectives to understand the habits of their lifestyle that help them maintain a healthy immune system. And they are to determine whether their own current lifestyle choices support it. Well, how does this connect to a bigger picture of God? Well, the teacher is going to explain that. The teacher will explain that doing what is right is often not easy. By our own strength, we could never do what is right. Consistently. But graciously, God promises to strengthen us to do all things, including being healthy, living healthy lives for the glory of God. And they have the verse from Philippians, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, the language arts program continues as we go now into the dialectic stage. For us, that's grades 7 to 9. They will continue the classical curriculum in language arts. Mostly math and science are from the classical curriculum, although we are preparing them for their exams in grade 7 and grade 9. In the language arts, beginning in grade 6, they begin to learn what are called quotable quotes. In grade 7, the students learn from their curriculum words of wisdom. Every day there is a quotation that the teacher presents, and the students copy it into their commonplace book, and then they discuss it and apply it and try to understand it and make it part of themselves. This continues in grade 8, where they are learning maxims. Also in grade 8, at the beginning of the language arts year, they are introduced to philosophy. They learn about the Stoics and the Epicureans. They read Marcus Aurelius and begin to put that into practice. For us, grade 8 is when grade 7, history. We begin formal instruction in history in grade 7. This is the student with his Rafiki classical Christian history book. In the primary grades, they get history lessons, but it is the teacher explaining it to them. They begin in their course books in grade 7, and it's written from a biblical worldview, helping the students see across history what was happening and how God was acting. So then when they get to high school, the history courses are all about African history, West African history, East African history, continental, and how God has been moving through all of that. Grade 8 is where we do our logic class. We are blessed to have a wonderful math teacher who's good at logic, and you see the students there with their logic books. And the language arts continues through grade 9, and then we go into what I might say rhetoric, you might say rhetoric, that's fine. This is grade 10 to 12. As they go through their classical curriculum, they're also preparing for their exams this year, in a very short time from now. They continue with the classical curriculum in literature, grammar, vocabulary, literature, I'll talk more about that, and classical writing. Your math and science, pretty much all from the classical curriculum. It has to be melded with the Zambian syllabus, and they can do that quite well. This is grade 10 in the lab. In grade 10, our students also take a class in theology. They use the R.C. Sproul book. Everyone is a theologian. They also get a video class in the history of music. Now, in grade 11 and 12, they take a 2-year course in rhetoric, where they learn all about the tenets of good rhetoric and how to express yourself winsomely, which is a very nice thing. So that's kind of the trivia in our school, but there are certain things that go across all the grades. Literature, we begin in grade 3, something simple like Aesop's Fables. By the end of the year, they are probably reading, at the end of grade 3, Charlotte's Web. This is grade 5. They're reading The Light Princess by George MacDonald. They do read African authors, as well as with the more classic ones, perhaps from the West, perhaps from India. In grade 7, they read one version of the Iliad, the Odyssey. They read the Odyssey again. They do read, in grade 8, they've been reading King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, which they enjoy. And they did an impromptu dramatization, which they had a lot of fun with. They liked King Arthur very much. This is the chapter where the Lady of the Lake gets her head cut off. So those 8th graders really liked it. Later in the year, they will read Canterbury Tales. They will read a version of Romeo and Juliet, which they will not dramatize, although they very likely would want to. So they do enjoy that kind of thing. In high school, grade 10, they read Heart of Darkness, Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. Of course, they're getting ready for their exams. They're reading right now The River Between. In the past, they have read Things Fall Apart. So the literature is a very rich program, and the teachers are giving teacher guides to help them understand it very much. Everyone gets art in our school, beginning at EC, moving on all the way through grade 12. This is EC3. They have an artist of the month. It was Degas, and this little boy is at the board demonstrating line, color, shape. Those are the things they learn. By the time they get to high school, the art includes a lot of information about artists and the period of history in which they were working. Now, in music, and again, we're going to need sound. Okay. All right. We have music weekly in our lower school. At upper school, it's an option as choir. But the EC classes have a composer of the month. They learn rhythm and pitch. We make sure that they're learning the theory as well as the singing part. They learn sight singing, and they do learn solfege. 2 weeks ago, I was visiting classes and went into grade 5 and got to hear grade 5 singing. You might recognize the tune, I hope you can hear it, but if you listen, they're not singing words, they're singing and sight singing as do, re, fa, mi. Do, re, do, mi, like this. So let's see if we can hear this. Singing is do, re, fa, mi. Do, re, do, like this. So let's see if we can hear this. But it was a treat for me to walk in and get to hear that last week. We do PE, physical education, twice a week in early childhood through primary. At upper school, it's once a week as sports, different sports activities. We do Bible study every single day. And our Rafiki Bible study has been written by a variety of people. Tom's going to tell you more. But our Rafiki Bible study was written up in Gospel Coalition, and it was described as the world's longest Reformed Bible study. And it's a wonderful study. Yesterday in grade 2, when the children went into class, the teacher had put this on the board. They're studying Joshua chapter 2, and the main lesson was that the 2 spies vowed to spare Rahab and her family. Every week they memorize a memory verse and catechism, they learn a hymn, and they pray daily. Everyone studies the same thing. We adults, the teachers, the cooks, the gardeners, the maintenance men, early childhood, all the way through grade 12. Now, this is an example of something that might get a little hard to teach to 3- and 4-year-olds. You know, the story of Rahab. Well, we are blessed that our Rafiki Bible study comes with lessons written. There are lessons specifically for early childhood, for lower primary, JSS, and senior secondary. So if you were teaching the 3-year-olds this week, you would tell a story about Rahab. It might last 5 minutes. And a question in there might be something like, whose house did the spies come to? That's appropriate for a 3-year-old. But at senior secondary, the lesson might go on for 20 or 30 minutes, and the questions might end up something like this. The teacher would direct the students to get into groups and debate the questions following, using scriptures to substantiate their positions. The questions: since Rahab was not condemned for lying, does that make her lie okay? So this is a wonderful resource as we look at teaching our students the Bible every single day. Now, as I'm finishing up my section, I want to go back to the first thing I said, which is that this is an education for all human beings, and it is in a Zambian context. What you've seen is our school of 360 students. We haven't told you where we're located. Maybe you could guess. We're actually located not in Ibex Hills or Leopard's Hills or any place. Luba, where are we? In the village. We're in the Chongwei district, about 17 kilometers off the Great East Road. All surrounding us, subsistence farmers. We started the school there about 17 years ago when we were primarily an orphanage. And we started the school for them. We are getting out of the orphan care business as they are growing up and graduating and leaving, and we're converting their homes into classes. And so more and more, 320 of our students now are day students. You saw them. I made a point of showing you pictures of our Zambian students in a classical school. Some of the students you saw grew up there as orphans. They've been there since they were 2. Some of our students, their parents are doctors, clinical officers. They own businesses and work in banks. Some of our students, their parents teach in government schools, but the parents want their children in our school. Some of our students are children of subsistence farmers nearby. Could you tell who was who? Probably not. Probably not. I'd like to take just a moment and emphasize the point that classical education is for all students. Let me tell you about one of our very first day students. He came to us when he was in grade 1. His mother is a single woman, subsistence farmer. Their house did not and still does not have electricity or water. He spent his weekends and evenings and school breaks in the fields, harvesting, using an ox cart to take the maize to the miller. He came to our school, and he did very well. He went through the classical program, studied rhetoric, classical writing, and did well in grade 12. And then he came here for the 1-year program at ACU. He's now in his 2nd year at NEPA, studying ICT. And everything that Dr. Merkel said that he learned at a classical school is helping him in ICT. Now, I used to think, because if you think Dr. Merkel has an accent, well, listen to my accent. I really don't have a background. I have been learning along with it. But I first thought classical education, that's for the super smart people. Well, the person I described wasn't super smart. He's a hard worker, but he's not super smart. And then I thought, oh yeah, that classical, that's for like kids whose parents are surgeons and professors. No, not necessarily. It is an education for all children. And as we look at classical education in a Zambian context, we have to look at the diversity of students. Students who are living in the compounds. Students who are living in the villages. That is also, I believe strongly, who classical education is for. Very much. Now, a very important question came up at the end of the last section. The question was, gee, who teaches this? Who could possibly teach this? Who could teach cursive writing? Who could teach from the 7 laws of teaching? Something we do, 7 laws of teaching. Who could teach phonics and classical writing? Well, my colleague Tom is about to come back and tell you who, okay? Tom, let me get you started.
Thank you, and the answer is not me. So the Bible says in Proverbs 16:21, the sweetness of lips increases learning. Literally, honeyed words. And this is not a reference to politicians. But rather, words reflecting intelligence, judiciousness, and discernment in speech, referring to the eloquent discourse of the wise. And this is a citation from the MacArthur Study Bible. So this thought encapsulates the vision of the Rafiki Institute of Classical Education, which I will refer to as RICE, to train young people to be Christian and classical teachers. So my discussion with you about RICE will cover the purpose, the program, the people, and the prospects. So the need for a teacher training program developed from the decision to educate the children under our care and a call to raise the level of education in the schools of our partner churches. And in a practical sense, it also became apparent as a result of developing a Christian classical curriculum and the need for trained teachers, trained to use the curriculum. So at Rice, we have 5 goals. The first is to prepare young people to teach using a classical model for early childhood and primary schools. 2, to instill in students a desire to love learning and a love for learning, and to model the virtues of truth, beauty, and goodness. 3, to encourage the transfer of the love of learning and displaying these same virtues to school children. 4, to develop teachers who are competent, cogent, articulate, and well-rounded and caring professionals. And lastly, to train educators who can teach a diverse population of young children using research-based development and developmentally appropriate practices. Now, if I'm going to, okay, just do that. I'm going to just speak from my notes, and at the end I have just some photos and some videos to show you. So if you don't mind the blank screen, that'll be there for a little bit. So RICE is a 3-year teacher training program which is offered free of charge to members of Rafiki's church partners. RICE operates in affiliation with Justo Mwale University, through whom RICE is accredited with the Zambian Higher Education Authority. Graduates receive a diploma in primary education from Justo Mwale University. So all text, materials, and supplies are provided to the students. The only expenses our students incur are for their housing, their food, and clothing. And those students are they lodge off-site in the surrounding community. So the training is a combination of distance learning and face-to-face instruction, although the students attend full-time. New students are enrolled and placed in cohorts of 4 to 18 individuals. They are provided text, reference books, they view supplemental materials via video, and they work on various projects and assignments specified in the course syllabi. Students receive formative assessments weekly and summative assessments at weeks 5 and 10 of each semester. The responsibility of the students is to thoroughly complete the assignments for each course according to the specified schedule. The administrative staff consists of myself, the dean, the assistant dean, who is Reverend Denning Mvula, and the administrative assistant, Ms. Sophia Kobali, who is a graduate of the program. The responsibility of the administrative staff is to ensure the students are following the course syllabi, and reading all of the course materials. We provide feedback and correction of written assessments. We critique writing assignments and projects, and assess and encourage learning habits, and observe and assess student teaching. So there are 3 levels to the training program, each consisting of 4 10-week semesters. In RICE 1, the basics of classical education are introduced. Students begin learning language arts, which is divided into literature, grammar, and vocabulary, the basics of Christian education and Bible, math, science, child psychology, and development for 3 to 5-year-olds. Also, physical education, music, and art. There are also classical teaching methods courses for each academic subject. Students demonstrate learning by achieving a minimum passing grade of 70% before progressing to the next term. Students begin interaction with the preschool level children as early as their first semester. In the 4th semester, students observe, assist, and teach the children in the early childhood levels 1 and 2 and the kindergarten for 4 hours each day for 10 weeks. Students in level 2 learn the methods and study of subjects for teaching in the lower primary grades 1 to 3. Additional courses include history, theology, library studies, and special education. In the final term, students observe, assist, and teach in the lower primary school for up to 5 hours each day. In level 3, students train in methods and subjects for teaching in the upper primary school with the additional subject of logic. So during the final semester, students observe, assist, and teach in primary grades 4 to 6 for up to 5 hours each day. And upon satisfactorily completing level 3, students are qualified to teach in the upper primary grades and receive their primary teacher's diploma. Now, this is a little bit more interesting. We're going to talk about the people, the students. So the challenge of RICE is transforming individuals who may not have had an optimal educational and biblical foundation. And transforming those to become lovers of learning and competent teachers who in turn want to teach children to become discoverers and self-learners and believers in Jesus Christ. There are 24 students currently in training from all over Zambia. They are members of our partner churches or members of Baptist churches in our local area. So for the most part, although our students qualify for college, they cannot afford to attend a public or private university. So upon interview, they will say they have always desired to be a teacher. And all of our new students will say they are Christians. But when asked how they became a Christian, very few can explain in biblical terms of holiness, sin, grace, repentance, or faith. Few show a biblical understanding of the gospel or can describe what the Bible is about. Few are able to explain what a biblical worldview is or how it could affect someone's education. Let's move on to the prospects. So how does it happen that after 3 years of training, many students do transform into competent, equipped, and articulate teachers? First, through the grace and sovereignty of God. We feel that even though many of the students may not have desired teaching as a career, that God can give them a calling and a passion for teaching. We believe that he could not have brought them to Rice without a plan and purpose for them. Secondly, through consistent and sound study of the Bible. The students begin each day with Bible study, with all students attending together. The Rafiki Bible study was written by theologians for Africans, and in some cases by Africans. And each lesson covers 1 week and is divided into 6 days to encourage a habit of daily Bible study. It covers every book of the Bible and takes 12 years to complete. That's why it's been named the longest Reformed Bible study. So in their 3 years of training, the students will study 16 books. Students receive a written lesson complete with a commentary on the week's passage. There's questions to prepare for discussion, a verse to memorize, and a catechism question. The administrative staff leads the study, explains the passage, makes applications, asks questions and answers questions, and reviews and checks for understanding. The thread running through each book of the Bible, which is the gospel, is revealed, discussed, and explained. The third, and finally, as students learn the distinctives of a classical and Christian education, and that teaching is about making students discoverers of truth, they begin to see that learning is more than memorizing the who, the what, the where, and when of subjects, but also asking and contemplating the why and the how. Especially, why is it important, and how does this connect to other information? So this spark, a tiny spark of illumination, which we fan into a sustained fire, that is the developing of a lifetime love of learning, and the enjoyment of learning, is described in the following description from the text of one of our courses on teaching principles and practices. So I'd like to read this to you. The two main motivations through which the mind can be aroused are the love of knowledge for its own sake and the desire for knowledge to be used as a tool in solving problems or obtaining other knowledge. In the love of knowledge for its own sake are mixed the satisfaction of natural curiosity, which wants to know, this is a list, A, the real nature and causes of the phenomena around us, B, the solution of the questionings which trouble the mind, C, the relief from apprehensions which ignorance feels in the presence of nature's mysteries, D, the sense of power and liberty which knowledge often brings, E, the feeling of elevation which each new increment of knowledge gives, and F, the delight in the truth because of its own beauty. All of these enter into the intellectual appetite to know, and these give reading and study their greatest attraction. The respect for knowledge, because it is a tool, includes A, the desire for education as a means of livelihood or as a source of better social standing, B, the need of some special skill or ability as an artist, lawyer, physician, writer, or some other professional, and C, the purpose of winning rewards, raises, advancements, or avoiding punishments and devotions. This type of desire for learning varies with each person and his aims. It will not go beyond the attainment of the position or reward unless it ripens into the true love of knowledge. The strength of the motivation for such knowledge depends on the need which impels the study, and the study itself is unlikely to continue once the goal is met. The rewards and punishments used in school to promote the studying of lessons have this type of force, and no more. They do not inspire a love for the work. But if the true uses of knowledge are constantly pointed out by the teacher and recognized by the child, the time may come when respect for knowledge, because it is useful, becomes for its own sake. I think that's a lot to think about there. But it gives you the idea of this transition from our thinking of that I need to learn this material so I can pass this course, so I can get the certificate, so I can qualify for a job. It gets beyond that. So I would like to show you some photos of our students in the act of learning. And I don't know, what do I need to do? No.